I met Bob Zellner in New York City in about 83 or 84. And I'd made my first film, The War at Home. And from making that film, that documentary, I got to know a lot of other filmmakers in New York City. And one of the filmmakers was a cinematographer. And she said one day, "You're from Alabama. You know, my new boyfriend's from Alabama." And I met Bob through her. He would tell me stories. It'd be one story after the other about the civil rights movement. And so many stories, dozens and dozens and dozens of stories. I mean, he went to jail 17 times. It just felt cinematic, all of his stories. You know, and also I wanted to make a film someday about the South I grew up in, to be able to say something about the South, about that moment in time, and to also make it real, because I could make it real. I can make real people. But I said after about 20 years, I said, you know, it came to me, the spring and the summer of 1961, that's the story. Because it's got everything that I needed. But also it was a film about a guy who was being transformed by the movement, by what he was seeing. He was being transformed by the racism, the violent racism. May 1961, when the Freedom Riders came to Montgomery, Alabama, and they were beaten in a very, very famous riot in which the white people rioted against the handful of black people who came as Freedom Riders to integrate the bus depot in Montgomery. Right. And Bob went down, ran down there after the riot had begun and began to pull people out. And for Bob, that was a major, major incident in his life. You know, it's one of these things that challenges you. Who are you? What kind of person are you? Where do you stand on this? Do you go through an incident like that and then just walk away, walk back to your life again, and say, no, you know, I'll be all right. You know, this is not going to really affect me. But it does affect you, and it did affect every white person in the South. It did. That kind of hatred definitely affects you. And at some point, I think that you become aware of it, and you have to decide. You have to decide something. You have to decide what kind of person you are. You have to decide if you're a Christian. You have to decide what kind of Christian you are.